All right, at least we figured this out before we started, right? All right, we'll give everybody just a minute or two to hop online. It is 10 a.m. and we are so excited to be kicking off Notion's Commotion. So we hope you guys are excited too. This is the first workshop of the event and we are honored to be here. I like to be punctual, but I'm assuming everyone's rolling around to getting in. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Janene Meyerowitz, and I'm the owner of 49 in Market. We are going to be doing a mini album project today. There's a little lag on the computer, so you'll have to bear with me as I try to make sure that it is following and keeping up with me. But this is the album that we'll be making. Hopefully, majority of you have received your kits. I know the post has just been absolutely awful. So this will be videoed. You can watch it later. So if you're not able to follow along with us today, don't worry about it, okay? So I am going to kind of hop into things as we do have quite a bit to cover. I do have a tendency to speak fast and even more so when I'm a little bit nervous. So I hope you can bear with me on that. I will try to slow it down. You can also post questions. I will try to get to them. Worst case, we'll follow up after with anything that you may need us to get back to. So that being said, we're all going to work at different paces, but we will try to keep it together. I move quick. If you're quicker than me and you're looking for something to do, you can remove your laser cut sheets from the paper pack. So right now I want you to start opening up your paper pack, and I've actually already done it just to get a few things a little ahead of the game for myself. But there are 4 laser cut sheets. There's 2 of each sheet. The easiest way to do this is if you're like me and a little haphazard, you kind of just pop them out with your fingers. There are little tabs that just hold them in place, but if you're careful, you can pop it out. So you can do this if you're looking for something to do while we're moving on. The other thing that you can do is you can also just use a paper trimmer and snap out your pieces if you're a little bit more comfortable with that. So this is just something that if you're looking for something to fill the time, you can certainly do that and be prepared. I'm going to put that off to the side for right now and show you the album that we will be using. Is a brand new one. It's actually not available even just yet, but we had them air shipped for you guys to use. The album comes with 4 inserts. They have a flip page on them as well as like about a 1/2 inch gusset in between to give you room to layer and do some extra stuff. In addition, there is this extra waterfall enclosure. We left this separate because we liked the idea of covering it with paper and then gluing it to the back. But again, customers, you can do whatever you want. It could be separate. You can glue it into the front, you can glue it into the back, whatever makes sense. So this is the album structure that we will be working on. And then with our papers, hi from Holland. Hi, Cindy. I'm going to remember to keep looking up occasionally so that I can just see if anybody has any questions. I think it's easiest. We kind of broke this down into a few different steps for how to put this album together in the most consequential, is that the right word, way. I think the easiest thing to do is if we begin by putting our papers just in order. This way we have the right papers for each page. For our cover, you are going to, or I should say the covers, we will cover the front, the spine, as well as the back. And those papers, there are 2 floral papers that are pretty similar. The easiest way for me to show this is by showing you the backs. So you're gonna need one of the dark coral backs and 2 of the light coral. And those will be our covers. So we're gonna grab those 3 sheets. So again, that's 2 light coral and 1 dark coral, and you can just kind of flip them upside down so that you have it. As Joanne Flannery, I give you a whole lot of credit. 4 a.m. from New Zealand. Thank you so much for waking up to us. I don't know if we have anybody else from New Zealand or Australia, but I give all of you a lot of credit and appreciate your joining us here live because I know it is early for you. The next papers, for the next sheets, we're going to do one of the light blue and one of the darker blue backed papers. Then we are going to do 1 light coral, 1 dark coral. I don't know if this is making sense or if you can follow it up. Worst case, we'll pull them later. It's just the light coral and the dark coral do get a little bit confusing, and I just want to make sure that for the mattes and the different colors that you would be all set. Our next page, we have a dark blue and a light blue again. We pair those two up. Yes, the 6x8 paper pack comes with a lot of sheets of paper, and I think we used just about all of it in this, and that's why I wanted to make sure that you have the right sheets of paper, because there's really nothing to spare. Our next insert, we're actually going to double up, and it will be 2 of the dark green backgrounds, as well as 1 dark green and 1 dark blue. So as you can see, these 2 papers kind of complement one another, but they are different. So that's 1 with the dark blue, 1 with the dark green, as well as 2 dark greens. Then next is very easy. We have a 4-page spread, which uses all of the butterfly paper, which we're actually going to be using that light sagey blue paper for the 4-page spread. So that's kind of easy. And then getting to the end, we have a dark green, a dark coral, and a light coral. So basically, with these sheets, as well as our 2 covers, we are going to be using the inside pattern on those cover sheets. Those will be for the very back of the book. You should be left, if we did this correctly, with 2 light blue, maybe that was the easiest way to do this, but 2 light blue, 1 dark blue, and 1 dark coral sheets of paper. So hopefully that made sense to everybody. Could you do the pages again when you're done? Yes, I can try to do that. The easiest thing might just be, instead of going through it all, because like I said, we really kind of have to move a little swiftly. If you can pull aside 2 light blue sheets on the back side, a dark blue and a dark coral, these will be used for the photo mats. And then when I go over each page, I'll make sure that we discuss which of the sheets of paper we used. So I hope that that makes sense. Okay, so to begin, basically the method to my madness is to create the bases of our album with our photo mats, a few embellishments, but then we'll go back and really get the detailed embellishments in there. This way we know we can cover all the pages and follow through. So to do this, we're basically going to put our cover sheets almost aside. But again, the front cover, at least if you're following along like me, feel free to do your own thing. I did a light coral on the front and the back as full sheets. With our dark coral patterned paper, I'm cutting a spine. And basically the albums are over 8 inches. What are they, 8 1/4? I should know this offhand, but I don't. They are 8 1/2 inches. So the 8-inch paper works nicely to have a border. So we're going to be cutting this portion of the floral strip, and you're going to want to do that 2 1/4 inches wide. So on a paper trimmer, if you cut that down, these are your 2 pieces created. And then for those cover pieces and the spine, we're really going to put this off to the side until we start working on that later. So those will be your cover sheets. From there, we're going to start working on our album, and I'm going to work from the inside cover on. So for the first spread, we're going to leave as is the paper opening to the right. And for this, I'll give you a quick little look at our finished pages, but basically we're going to be taking the dark blue background and the light blue. These are going to be our 2 pages that we're going to be working on. And the idea that I had for this particular album was to, I always like to give a little bit of a different technique. I don't know, maybe it's something you haven't done in a while. Maybe it's something you never thought of doing. But for this, I said, this paper's really pretty, and I don't always want to cover up the elements on the paper. So what can I do about it? So for this particular workshop, my idea was to use your craft knife on a craft mat. This is the Tim Holtz one, but whatever works for you. And the idea being is that we'll use the center of the paper for our mini layouts, but that we're going to trim out some of the embellishments so that we can slide those papers underneath. So for example, we have the butterfly and the floral element, as well as this one on the bottom. So using a craft knife of your choice, basically, you are just going to trim around. You do not have to do this to perfection. The great part about doing this is that when you do it, and you do have to use a bit of force, our paper is rather thick. When you're doing this, if you didn't cut it perfectly or you don't like how you cut it, you can use carefully, of course, don't cut off your finger and blame me later. But basically you can distress those edges with your tool or even your fingers. And this way it will kind of do away with any imperfections that you might have. So we're going to do that butterfly piece. We're going to do the floral down here, which that I always have a little bit of trouble with. All right. And the other nice thing is that if when you go to stick in your papers later, you say, oh, I didn't cut quite enough over. Well, you can always go back and trim a little bit more so that it makes sense to the layers that you're going to be adding. So, okay, way too fast already. I apologize, Heather. We have a lot to cover. The nice thing is there are written directions. There are links posted to the printed directions, as well as this will be recorded so that you can watch it at your leisure. You can pause it. But once you get the idea of the first page or two, I think it goes a little bit smoother because then you have a little bit more practice with it. And if it's too much, so for example, on this one, I won't bother cutting out the floral because just to save a little bit of time. So we can cover that up since some of our elements are put there after the fact. So the idea is that we've now opened up these elements. And from the sheet of paper that we had left over from our spine piece, we're going to make this into a mat. So it should be that it is, it's 3.5 inches wide. Did I cut wrong? It's okay. We will make it about 3.5 inches by 5 inches. You can distress the edges of your paper or just simply add it as is. And this will become one of our photo mats. So I basically add a little bit of adhesive to the sheet. And I'm going to put this pretty much centered, but this way it pops out a little bit here and there and center it. And then as you can see, so I cut a little too much here. That's okay. We'll fix it later. I'm going to actually add a butterfly or something later, or you can, of course, always fix it on the back side by re-gluing it to something. So we're going to do these smaller layouts like this to start. So, and then to not confuse things, I'm actually going to just adhere this to my inside cover. And I leave a little bit of a margin. I do want to keep in mind that my other sheet's going to be going on the paper, which is a little smaller. So I try to line it up just so. And we'll put that in place for now so that we don't lose track of it. And then for our next signature piece, we will take this, which is, again, this is the dark blue backside, but the florals on it. And we are going to trim out the leaf, the finger tool. Yes, this thing is awesome. I use this all the time. Comes in very handy. And again, if you don't want to use the knife because you don't want to cut yourself or anything, you can also just use your fingertips to kind of roughen up those edges and give a little bit more dimension to the leaves. Did I do that backwards? No. Okay, and then we're going to also do this little leaf over here, which I think I just cut half of it off. Okay, so now we lifted up our leaves here. For this particular layout, we are going to take that dark blue piece of paper and we're actually going to cut off, this is a 6x8 sheet of paper. We're going to make it into a 4x6 and then 2 3x4s. So I will show you those pieces. Okay, so very simply, I took my one sheet of paper and I trimmed it down just like that. We're gonna save the 4x6 for later, and we're gonna use our 2 blue mats here. And I like to layer them up a little bit. I cut some of these in advance. If you didn't do it, it's really not a big deal. These are just in place of photos, as I don't know what photos I'm going to put in yet. And the idea is just to simply show you when your photo's in place what it'll look like with the overlap. So for example here, I think I want it a little bit further. So I'm just going to increase the opening. I hope that makes sense. And the other point that I should make is I don't like to use so much adhesive that I can't get elements in under later. And I hope that that makes sense. So getting elements in under later, for example, if I want to tuck something in, I don't want to be prohibited because this was glued down all the way. So I like to just kind of add a strip of glue in the middle for the most part, and then that way I will be able to edit it later on. Okay. All right, so we have those two in place. So that's somewhat easy for this album construction. Again, I will adhere the complete back. I can put adhesive over those openings so that anything else will stay in place. And we will put this on the outside flap of the first signature. Okay, I'm leaving a little bit of a gap around the edges. It's probably about 1/8 of an inch if I had to guess. And I'm not doing an excellent job here. Okay, so I hear them piece. So this is our first inside cover, first flap. And then we will begin working on our next section. For these two pages, we're going to be using, this is the light coral and one of the dark coral. I actually, in my sample, did this particular sheet upside down. If you look at the text, it probably should go this way. I just chose to flip it around. Either works completely. Up to you. Okay. Sneaking a little bit of water. Okay, so for this, I like my florals and my leaves, and those are the elements that I'm going to cut out. I don't really bother so much with the inside one or the outside ones. I'm really more focused on this larger piece. Anybody following along and having fun, or am I going too fast that it's easier to do it later? Okay. So again, I'm just roughening up those edges a little bit. And our leaves. And I'm going to pop them out. So I like this idea of saving some of these elements and not covering them up. While I have my knife out, I'm just going to do the other sheet as well. For this one, with it upside down, we have, again, I'm going to use the large floral. I'm going to use this little bud sticking out, and then those will be the two elements that I save. Trying to keep up. I appreciate it. It's hard when 2 hours, and I always have a tendency, I'll be honest, to kind of bite off more than I can chew, but I wanted to give you guys a finished album and some good techniques with some use of some new products. So hopefully, despite going a little bit faster than you might be used to, hopefully it'll all pay off. All right, good stuff. And you know, if doing this as a kit for your customers, you can always encourage them to do inking or more distressing on the edges. It's kind of like, well, whatever works for people and whatever style. I always like to kind of disperse my suggestions and techniques into different classes. This way it keeps everybody coming back for more. So as you can see, the two sheets, we have some elements that are now lifted, and now we will add some more photo mats. So for these two pages, I liked using the dark coral. I thought it gave it a nice pop with the elements. And for this, we are going to trim the 4x6 and the 2 3x4 pieces like we did with the blue sheet just a moment ago. And so the photo size has become a little trickier, a little off, just because it's easy with the 6x8 to do the 3x4s as the outer piece. So again, I like to stagger it a little bit with my two. I'm thinking, maybe something along those lines. I actually cut a little too much, so I guess maybe I'll make sure I use that. We'll stick it like that. We'll put this in place, just make sure. Oh, I did cut out a leaf and I didn't even notice it. So I'm gonna go back here before I adhere anything, and I'm gonna trim out these bottom leaves on this side. And that's a nice thing. So when you put the photo mats in place before adhering anything down, you kind of give it the opportunity to fix anything that you might need to. And wicked papers, you guys are keeping up. I'm very impressed. Thank you. I'm glad to hear that. And you'll be able to use your fingers to bend the papers and manipulate them a little. So see how nicely that tucks in here? In this way it pops out a little over here, a little over there. And once again, I am going to put these in place, but actually I might spring something fun on you. And we're gonna have our first opportunity to use some rub-ons. I hope you guys are excited. I don't know. I know some people said they've never used them before. Other people are pros. This is not a new product. It was out years ago. It kind of disappeared. We are in love with these rub-ons. They are high quality, super easy to use. I will point out that they are quite tacky, so you have to be a little bit careful, but it just makes it easier to work with. So really quick, when opening the package, I like to do it this way. We didn't do the lip and tape bottom, because once you do that, it now just creates a whole mess where it could remove the rub-ons from the sheets when you're putting it in and out, if that makes sense. As well as I didn't really like the idea of a staple, because for transit, I didn't want to have any issues with the packaging damaging the product. So the easiest thing we found is we just trim along the edge and we kind of yank out our pages. This way, you also have the plastic that it came in. You want to keep that, because when you don't use all these, because you'll see how many rub-ons there actually are, you want to be able to store them in a way that you can keep the protective backing on the sheet. So for this, there's 2 sheets per pack. They are double-sided. For this particular piece, I thought, oh, it's missing a little something over here. So I take out the, where do I have it? My tool is in one of these pieces. There we go. On the front, you'll see our nice little polypropylene tool. It has a pointed edge for detailed pieces and then a nice flat end for larger pieces. And if this is basic to some of you, I apologize, but I just know some people wanted a little tutorial on how to apply those rub-ons. Now, you could do one of 2 things, but I think to start, the easiest thing is that if I don't glue down this, it gives me a broader area to apply one of the pieces to. So I'm going to show you how this works. You have a backing sheet. You will remove it. These are the rub-ons. They are a little tacky. If you put it on a piece of paper, it's possible that some of it might get removed even without pushing down on it. So you do want to be careful. But for these particular elements, I find a little here, a little there. I'm not as particular with it as maybe I should be. But basically, I'm looking for this general placement. So I'm going to just move this away. I'll use the fat end. And I'm basically holding up the rest of the sheet while I slowly peel back the area I'm attempting to get on here. And the nice thing with rub-ons too, like for example, I don't know if you can even see this on the camera, there's a slight bit here. All I do is lay it back down and reapply a little bit of pressure, and it's as easy as that. So, and perfect. So now we've had the appeal of looking like we did mixed media without the dry time, without the warping of our paper. And that's what I'm in love with these rub-ons for, because I think they give this beautiful mixed media effect without actually having to do mixed media. As well, I'm also going to put a little bit down here and here. Same thing. I just rub it in place, slowly lift back the plastic, make sure it's where I want it, and boom. And now when I put the sheet back down. I want to make sure I use this plastic coated sheet, kind of like a wax paper, because this way it'll protect the rest of these elements from sticking to whatever else I can stick it onto. So any questions with those rub-ons? I know, I'm telling you, these rub-ons are my absolute favorite products that we have come out with. I just can't get enough of them, and we'll probably have plenty more. So now I'm going to put a little adhesive right down the middle of those, and once again, kind of position where I'd like to see them a little staggered. And there we go. And once again, if you had the pre-cut mats, great. If not, not really a big deal. You can just use these for photos later. But the size would be 2 3/4 by 3 3/4 or thereabouts, just to show off the nice coral mat. So we will leave this as is, and we will continue to work on it later. This one, this was our 4x6 sheet. So again, I have a photo mat that is just a little bit smaller. I will adhere that right there. And again, figure out how to stick it in so that the elements pop off. Boom. Okay. So these are our 2 signatures that go on the inside first flap. I'm checking time, see how we're doing. We're doing great. We are gonna keep moving because, as I said, we do have quite a bit. Okay. I couldn't find my glasses this morning, so I'm hoping I'm lined up here. Okay, so we stick it there. I also hope you guys have large enough desks. I feel like I'm completely spread out across a 6-foot table and still wish I had more room for everything going on over here. I'm gonna take out this so that it's a little easier to apply the sheet down. But boom. Okay, so as you see, flipped open. We have a nice 3-page spread here, and then it's shut over here. Now for our next signature, I actually decided just to do something a little different, and the idea being, let's think outside the box. Instead of leaving this particular sheet folded in so it folds open the same way, I'm gonna fold it back. That way that 3rd signature is now a double gatefold. So for these 2 pages, they are just straight papers on them. I'm a rub-on. Oh, well, thank you, Mary, because I have to tell you, I think our quality of rub-ons is absolutely amazing, too. Could not be happier with how they have come out. Okay, so for our next signature, we are going to take, I feel like I might have, oh, no, I didn't goof. Okay, so it will be the sheet. We're not going to adhere it yet because we are going to create a pocket, but just to show you the pages and where they're going to go. So now we are going to actually take out our Sky Nouveau ephemera stacks. Again, another great product. We have them available in, I think it's about 11 different packs now. We have we have 7 signature vintage artistry and colors, if that's even the way to phrase that. This is the Sky Nouveau, and the idea being that it's the sky color, but has some extra pops of different shades of the blue. So for this particular spread, we're going to create a pocket on our left side and a nice little layout on the right. And we'll just move that to have a little bit more room. So if you get out your pieces, what did I use? Okay, I'm going to take this particular ephemera piece with the butterfly on it, and we're actually going to create a pocket. Now, to do this, it's pretty simple, and I will say the nice thing about our lovely little tool is it can double as a scoring tool. So if you don't have another scoring tool on hand, perfectly fine. What I typically do is I flip it upside down. You can do this on a mat or something softer just to get a little bit of a better edge. It will give you a little bit of a better crease for folding it. But I'm literally just going around the outside so that I'll be able to fold. And again, all the pieces are pretty thick cardstock, so you want to carefully do it. But as you can see, I scored the pieces, and in order to make a nice little corner, we're going to trim off the corner so that you just have a slight overlap. So when you put it on your paper, I'm actually gonna just do this. I'm putting a little adhesive around the corners. Either you can do it on the paper or on the die cuts. I just thought this might be a little bit easier. And hopefully I can line it up again. Okay. And now I fold in those corners. You can use your fingernail if I didn't cut enough quite here. And it is literally that easy. Now you'll see it's a slight edge here, so this is lifting a little because I didn't have adhesive right there. We're gonna fix that when we put it into our album, so it's really not a big deal. As long as I don't stick onto my glass mat with that adhesive. So this was kind of easy. I also thought that this particular pocket, I said, well, it needs a little ink. I wasn't gonna do too much with ink, but every project I do has some kind of distress ink on it, be it whatever color. This happens to be gathered twigs. You really can just use anything. But I just wanted to ink up the edges a little and kind of dirty it up, so to speak. Okay, so very easy. I just now take 2 other sheets from the die cuts. Again, you can ink the edges if you want, not really any precise science to it. But again, that just gives it a nice little contrast. Here I have the library card, and I even stuck in the photo reel. The photo reel, I'm not gonna spend the time now, excuse me, but you can pop out those centerpieces. You can use them obviously later for something else. But the idea being it just gives it a nice little effect. Love the idea of having a double gatefold. Thank you. Yeah, we try to give a few tips for just, I don't know, thinking outside the box. So this will be our left side page. For our right side page, we're going to use this sheet of paper, which is the light blue. And in my mess, if I can find my little finger tool here, I'm going to cut out the butterfly, the other butterfly, and the floral element. So hopefully at this point, this is getting a little bit easier. Again, I don't really spend a great deal of time being too precise with this, as I know that I can either roughen up. You can also ink these edges. I mean, anything to help mask any imperfections is always a good thing in my book, but. I always have to be careful. Yeah. I don't know who just wrote that, if something just popped, but I will mention next time we use the rub-ons about being more careful on the other pieces, because you can run the risk of having those rub-ons be applied in places you don't want them to go. But I guess it just depends on which pieces I'm working on and how much are around. Oh, that was Isabel's scrapbook store. Yeah. Okay. So here's my little tattered butterflies now, as well as my floral piece. For this, I use the book piece, and again, just like to give it a little, you can see how little I actually have on this tool. Okay. And once again, I put it in place, make sure that I have lifted appropriately where I need to. It looks like I'm gonna have to trim a little bit more to get that to fit. The nice thing is this little cutout actually kind of fit behind the butterfly, but you will have to go all the way around to make that work for you. See how it comes out, the little edge? Okay. I probably should have put adhesive on this before I did this, but, oh. Okay, and it looks like I'm gonna have to just trim a little extra here. If you trim more than less, it's never a problem. You can always adhere it down later. So we will open this up a bit. Make sure that popped out. Okay. So hopefully we're in business now. I add a little adhesive. There we go. Oop. And that's why less adhesive at this point is always easier in my opinion. So there we have it. Wonderful. That is in place. Next, we will grab our large doily. The large doily, we're going to cut right in half so we can use half now and half later. Always a nice way to make your pieces last a little bit longer. So for this, we are also going to use, there's so many die cuts in here trying to keep track of all of them. I don't know if that's the right one. Here we go. This particular piece, it has a little tab on the top. And again, this is only if you're following exactly along. You can feel free to edit as you go. But the idea I liked behind this piece was that I use this as a back mat for my other mats. So for these particular pieces, it's a little off on the measurements as we went off of the width and trying to fit the two pieces for the die cut or the ephemera piece. So for this, it's our light blue background paper, and we are going to cut it in half. So we have a 4x6 piece for later. And then we are going to cut two mats that are 3.5 by 2.5. So as a paper trimmer, so these are 3.5 by 2.5, and they should fit in quite nicely here. I left a little bit of room between the two as we're going to put, or I put in a tab piece, so it gave it a little extra space. So you can distress those if you like the distress look. Just to show you really quick what I typically do, I go right on the edge of a table, which you can ruin your table this way, but I'm not exactly the cleanest or neatest scrapbooker out there, so I tend to make a little bit of a mess, but you can see that the white edge gives it a nice effect as well. I'm just using a nail file here. I don't even know if you can even see me doing this off the edge of the table, but basically I'm just using the edge of my table as an easy way to get that distressed. So for these, I actually will just apply the glue. Actually, no, you should put the glue in the middle so that way you don't have any issues with your tabs later. So I'm gonna glue all my pieces in place. I'm gonna, I guess, start here. I want to make sure that I'm going to put this in place with the doily kind of. We're going to make sure that we don't have the edges of the doily showing out of our piece. And by that, I mean, I guess we're going to position it so that you don't have one of these edges. So to do that, I kind of just shimmy it in, and then I will, oh, I'm off the page here, so I got to move it in a little bit more. And then I go like so, okay? And now we'll build a cluster here later, so that's why we want to make sure that this is open. So this is our next page. Was it page 2 that was refolded? Yes, so the second signature flap is folded back for the third. And I have a son, our boys are on quarantine this week. Isn't that always fun for these COVID times, as one of their friends tested positive. Thankfully, he is healthy and okay, and my boys have tested negative. Yes, honey?
I finished music episode.
Good job, honey. All right, I'll be with you a little later. Okay, so now I'm just adhering these signatures into my book. This is solid pages. There is no flap because the flap is now facing into our third signature. Were there any questions that I didn't catch on the screen as we were going? I don't know if anybody needs me to repeat anything. That was the large doily. The one that we had used here was this light blue one, cut in half. We will use the smaller one later. Okay. And I put that in place. So now this was our first. We flip. Our second, and then onto our double gatefold. For this, we're gonna do the covers to the gatefold first, and then we'll go to the 4-page spread. are the background photo mats from the paper pack. These two light blue, if this is the question, I'm not 100%. The two light blue pieces were from one of the sheets of paper with the light blue background. We cut it into a 4x6, and then two smaller pieces. These pieces are cut to 3.5 by 2.5 so that they can fit the die cut from the die cut pack. And yes, there are printed instructions. There's a link at the top of the video chain, or whatever this is called, the live stream. You'll be able to download those. So for our double gate folds, we will do the covers. And for this, we will take out, I wish you could see my whole desk to see what a mess I've got going on. This we're going to use 4 sheets of paper. And again, this was just showing something else that can be done with paper if you haven't done it before. I'm going to trim down, probably easier to show you. I'm going to trim down the patterned papers so that we have the dark green border showing. But because I don't want to waste that whole sheet of the green, I want to get some photo mats out of it. We're going to cut out the center of those green sheets. So on 2 of these sheets of paper, and I'm not usually too particular. I mean, you can get out your ruler, you can measure it, but the idea just being, I'm only looking to create a 3 by 4 inch mat. Hopefully I've cut enough. At the rate I'm going, I might not have. Let me see if I actually did. No, you'll need to do more than I just did, but that's okay. You can always change the size of the mats if you don't cut enough. So for this, you basically you want to cut out so that you have like an inch border all around, and then you can trim down a mat to whatever size you need or whatever is available to you. So this particular one, I've now changed up a little bit on my from my sample. I have a 3.5 inch by 4.5 inch piece, and because I originally trimmed that one down a little bit too much, I'm going to see what I can get out of it. This is 3.5 by 2.5. So I'm now going to have slightly different mats for later, but that's okay. I'm going to put these off to the side. So with our dark green as our border or our base for these layouts pages, we have these 2 other papers. I'm going to just take a 1/4 inch off the top and the side so that the paper is now 5 3/4 by 7 3/4. Okay, so you can see. Oh, thank you, Stacy. I hope everybody's enjoying. I know it can be overwhelming. Mini albums definitely have a lot going on, but at least they leave you feeling like you've really got a lot done because there's so many spaces to put your photos in. So these will be the base of our gatefold folders. I'm going to, this one's going to be as is, so we can actually glue down the paper. And for this one, I'm gonna just go back and trim out 1 leaf, or maybe 2. I might think I want this one. All right. And again, you can see I'm not cutting out the whole thing. It's just so we have a little bit of depth and a little added element to our page. And then I will adhere this as well. Okay. Can you show what's on the back of the solid background paper when you're doing the photo mats? I'm not sure which paper, but I will try to keep in mind if I haven't mentioned which mats are done yet. So for this, we are going to, this particular page is just a little easy, but we don't want to adhere this just yet because we are going to apply some rub-ons. On the left-hand side, we are going to create another pocket. And I thought the easiest way to do this is I actually took one of the ephemera stacks from that pack that we opened before. I just like to distress a little bit, give it a nice little edge. And very simply, I'm just going to flip this over and I'm going to adhere on the back side, the top, the bottom, and the right side. And I do make sure you're doing it the right side. So you're doing the non-edged side, if that makes sense. This way, if you flip it, this will create the pocket. So I'm going to apply it so that there's just a little bit of a border from our papers. And to show you how easy that is, I will again, if I can find all my pieces of my die cuts. This is one of the envelopes that happens to be in the die cut. You can see it's now a nice little pocket. I also just happen to stick in the little doily. You can save for later, always take in, take out, add whatever pieces you want. To further make this just a little bit more exciting, I did take one of our laser cut elements. This is on the leaf sheet. It's the longer of the two pieces. I love these pieces. They just give such detail. So I'm going to pop that out. For this, I think I'm just going to use a little bit of wet glue so that I can make sure I don't get it all over the place. Okay. Please show pages against lower. I will go back and show the pages, no problem. I'm going to just cover up this edge, or the seam, I should say, with that laser cut piece, okay? So this is the left-hand side. For the right-hand side, I think it needs a little bit more. We can go and pop out this, and you can still do so even though if you've already adhered it like I did. Just might have to cut a little bit harder. Or because you didn't put too much adhesive, it kind of just separates from the two. But with this, eyeballing it in place, the ephemera stack, this is from the ephemera stack, I'm going to grab one of my doilies from my rub-on sheet, if I can find them. And we have the doilies in this is the Coral and Natural pack. It has the varying shades of both colors. So for this, I thought it was just nice to keep with the neutrals. And before I apply the paper down, I have to separate these. What someone was saying before, and this is true, if you're worried about getting your rub-ons kind of all over the places and places you don't want to get them on, you can certainly trim around the piece you want to use to separate it from the rest of the sheet. So this way it's much easier to just say, oh, okay, great. This is exactly where I want it to go. Move that out of the way. Rub it, and now I didn't have to worry about any of the other elements being damaged. So you can certainly do that if you're more comfortable with that method. I kind of do both. It just depends on which elements I'm doing as well as what other elements are still on the sheet around me. So are all four papers in dark green? No. This leaf paper is the dark blue. So the left-hand side top base, maybe it's easier to see that, has the dark blue. And this one, the right-hand side is the dark green. So you've used 3 dark green sheets of paper here and 1 of the darker blue. I hope that answers your questions. Okay, so I'm gonna slide that in. We're gonna go back later with more rub-ons, but you can put title pieces and words, but just to give you an idea that these are now our gate folds. So I will go back to the album and stick those in place. What page is the background? The dark order. I'll show this to you quickly. This is the dark green background paper on the outside, followed by a 6 3/4 by, what is it? 5 3/4 by 7 3/4 inch sheet of the dark blue. Okay, I put that in. The other one was the dark green with the dark green, so they're flip-flopped. So your dark green is the inner piece is the dark green. I figured it out. Okay, so hopefully, does this make sense to everybody? What did you stick under the leaves? I stuck nothing under the leaves. I just simply cut them out. So like we did on the other signatures. This is actually just the other paper sticking through, but you won't really see that later. So they're just there so that way when you put in a photo later or anything else, you can wind up being able to tuck in and you still see the leaves. So, okay, so next we have now this double gatefold. So we are going to do a 4-page spread here. I will give you a quick look at my finished sample, which has extra elements on top, but just to give you an idea. So basically what we're creating, and this is all going to be using the background paper that is like a light sagey color. This is all the pink butterfly paper. We're just using that backgrounds for it. So that makes it kind of easy. All 4 sheets of the pink are being used for this 4-page spread. And on our right and left sides, that is a full sheet that is down. We will then use 1 sheet of this, which is the dark green. So this should be the last full piece of the dark green background, I believe, that you have. And we're going to create these half pockets on the front and the back. I guess my whole book's not totally in that shot. Hopefully you can see, I'll move it a little bit so you can see the left-hand side and then followed by the right. So in order to do this, okay, let's see how much I can spread out and not totally make a mess of everything. What do you, okay. So these will be our 4 pages. Trying to keep everything together so I have it. Okay, can you see all 4 pages? Let's see what the camera picks up. It's a moment or two delayed on me. Which it looks like I should lift them up a little bit so you can really see everything, right? Okay. So using the sheet of paper that has the dark green on it, we are going to make 2 pockets. So basically we're just going to trim off a 1/4 inch off the top so that the sheet is now 7 3/4. And then we will trim it vertically into 2 3-inch pieces. So it's just a 1/4 inch off the top and then sliced right in the middle for our 2 end pieces. Where was it? What stick is under what? What did I just say? I don't know. Okay, so these will be, I'm gonna actually remove our inside pieces for just a moment just so I can make sure that you see everything. But these are gonna be the pockets that we create on the left and the right. And it's kind of similar in that we'll put the adhesive on the upper and bottom and outside edges. So for this, you can either ink up those edges or you can distress them or just leave them. But again, you wanna make sure that you're doing it on the side that will face out of the album. So this is our left-hand sheet. I'm doing it just so that I have a top and bottom border. This, I just do a little adhesive on the very edges. And this will be our right-hand paper. This is actually, it might be upside down, but that's okay. No, it's not. Okay. So there you have it, simple. Now, of course, that looks a little plain, so what are we going to do? We are going to go back to our laser cut elements, and we have 2 pieces of lace. I love these lace pieces, as the detail I think is great, but it also saves you any bulk of actual lace. And in mini albums, I find that when you're done with all the pieces, it kind of has a way of creeping up on you that it's built up a little bit. So you want to keep most of your elements as flat as you can. For this, I'll probably use this adhesive. I'm going to apply it so this way, hopefully I do this correct. I want to make sure my adhesive obviously isn't going to seal the pocket. So I kind of do it where there's like a little piece sticking out, but my adhesive just runs on that paper. And if I've done it correctly, I can then take, yes, so this will slide in, slide out, and we have another piece there, as well as I used, and again, there's so many pieces in these ephemera packs. You can use whichever pieces you want. You can obviously use for other projects, but this is just a way to show you that pocket. The right-hand side, same exact thing. I'm gonna put the adhesive like so. And I'm gonna seal that down, and if all goes well, we'll take a small little envelope and see if it can slide in. Yes, so you can also tack down glue so that it's sealed up a little bit better, but for my purposes, this will do just fine. Before I move on to the inside pages, I did do some rub-on work here again. I should lift these up. I used another one of our doilies. And I kind of applied it in a diagonal manner, but that's okay. I like to see where my pieces are or where I think they're gonna go so that I can then position the rub-ons in a way that makes sense. So, which that I think was the wrong one. I used the largest doily, not that it really matters, to be honest with you. These are all interchangeable. Here I didn't cut out my heart, but I'll actually use my heart real quick. What if we put a little heart here? Just so I don't stick it somewhere I don't want it to go. Okay, so that's on the ephemera piece, and moving these pieces out of the way, I will apply the doily. I love these doilies. I love all these pieces. I mean, honestly, the rub-ons, you cannot go wrong in my opinion. There, I just had to re-stick it down to apply a little bit more. And poof, presto, we have a nice little pocket. So that's our left-hand piece for now. Nice and easy. Our right-hand side, which was of course the large doily. I just keep messing up all my doilies, but that's okay. I will add the other piece over here. Okay. If for some reason, I see someone said they don't have a dark green left. I think the dark green was what we just did for the pockets. Am I correct on that? If you don't have a dark green, then you probably have one of the lighter blue or darker blues. You could use that instead. It's a pretty similar pattern, but there would be another sheet somewhere along the line if something got crossed, which not the end all. I did these. And then I even went one step further on my sample with this large floral leaf piece from another sheet of the rub-ons. I wanted to just show you that you can apply it over the different layers, and it's okay if it cracks. It just gives that seamless look to it. My sheet's stuck. Okay, so I'm going to use this big green leafy piece. And I'm going to kind of follow the scallop of that lace piece over here with, just as a guiding part. Is that the right word? I don't even know. It's hard talking to yourself without hearing any feedback. I kind of think you're losing your mind a little bit. The bottom two directions show all 4 pages. Yes, on the directions you will see all 4 pages. Are posted, and we will be getting to the inside pages, but okay. So, and did I possibly, see, I got a little bit over here, but it blends in with the paper, so I'm not really too concerned. But that's why if you like to cut it out, you certainly can do so. And then just to show you, you can take your craft knife, follow that scallop just to pop open the pocket again. So now it's 2 pieces. So these are going to be our left side and our right side pieces. I'm going to just put them off to the side for the moment while we do the 2 middle pieces, and then we'll adhere them all into the book. Again, these are our butterfly pieces, but using the other sheets. And for this, what did we do? For our left-hand side, I actually used 2 of the journaling cards. So you have 2 sheets with journaling cards. One will be for our title, as well as you'll have extra pieces. So I basically wanted to use these 2 plain leaf pieces. So on the 2 different sheets, you should find one on each. So if you can trim those out. All right. Please show the ephemera pieces on the pocket. Okay, I will get to the pocket in 1 second. Okay, so these were the 2 journaling cards. They have the butterfly with it today. I am going to use them to create a larger photo mat, and let me go back and just show you the ephemera. So for the ephemera pieces, for this was the left-hand side, I used this paper looking one, and then the die cut one. The heart was what I applied the rub on. So that wasn't on the paper to start out with, that was a rub on. And then for this, I just stuck in the little envelope as just kind of a placeholder. Okay, so for this, we had a 4x6 mat that was previously cut out from one of our other sheets, and we're gonna basically use that as our guide. I took the journaling cards and I trimmed out the leaves so that we had a little bit of extra goodness going on. And so I'm gonna tatter up those edges, trying not to cut my fingers as I go. All right, how's everybody doing? I see we're at like our halfway point. Hopefully we will get through it all. Hopefully everybody's hanging in. I'm working in the store while watching. Okay. Oh, thank you. Yes, I'll get to the bonus project sheet in a bit. Were butterfly pieces used for the 2 outer pages? I don't know. There were on the 2 outer. I'm not sure. Now I'm confused. I'm sorry. 2 butterfly pieces. I don't know who's asking. We're going to apply more rub-ons later. So if you see something, if you're looking at the directions, we can always add more later, and we will do so. There was a butterfly on the sample on the pocket right over here, which was a rub-on, and then we'll do some butterflies over here in just a moment. So for this, because the 2 colors are kind of similar, I again just opted to distress my edges of the light blue mat. This was the 4x6 that was created earlier. And I just like distressing edges. I love that white little border. It kind of makes it an easy way to look like you have some major effect going on. And what I did, and you'll see if your spacing works out, which that I did not cut all the way. Basically, we're going to apply to the page like so. So I think the easiest thing for me to do is to position so that I have an even mat from the 2 journaling cards. I'm going to kind of just stick that down like that. Adhere some here. Try to keep it as even as I can. Make sure I tuck that in. Where are the opening? Yeah, it's about right. Okay. And then we can stick this down onto the background paper. Kind of spacing that out. Okay, now that looks nice, but okay, it needs a little bit more. So one of my favorites is the rub-on with the 3 butterflies. We used this sheet earlier. We're going to use these 3 butterflies, and I guess since I'm learning my lessons, I should trim it out so that I don't have any issues while we are live here. And I'm just going to cut out those butterflies. I like the idea of blending over different layers. So I'm basically positioning it so that it's a slight bit of border, because this is going to be a background mat for a smaller photo. I don't mind that I'm putting it a little bit over. The rub-ons with the translucentness, I don't know. I think they just, wherever you need something extra added, they're perfect for. I mean, now it looks like it was already part of the pattern paper, but it wasn't. We will again add more pieces later. You know, titles, ribbons, whatnot. I will just show you some of the stripes I love, just to give it a little extra oomph right now. I line up one of the stripes across that top line, and I peel it off so you can see there. Nice little effect. I'll do something similar along the bottom over here. I'll flip out that and just do a little over there. Okay, so again, I'm making sure that I keep putting this back onto my wax paper like sheet, just so that those don't wind up sticking down where I do not want them to go. Okay, these paper collections, rub-ons, albums, stunning. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so this is another done sheet. This is going to be our inside left. And for our inside right sheet of paper, we are going to take one of our ephemera stacks, excuse me. Confusing all my terms right now. And we will kind of just position it in the middle, a little staggered. As well as, this is one of the tattered edged ephemera stacks, and I love these because they're sized nice. Oh, did I just go somewhere? Oh, my remote, I'm sorry. Where did I go? Okay. I moved my thing. Somebody just texted they're in the wrong place. I'm trying to find the feed. So this is one of the ephemera stacks with the tattered edge. You can continue to tatter it even more if you like. Totally up to you. But we are going to cover that beautiful leaf. You could have cut that out ahead of time, but you know, there's only so much we can get done. This is where I am going to use those interior green mats that we cut out from before, from those inside pages. If I can figure out what I did with them on my desk. Here we go. Now, in the directions, I had made it so that you would have 2 3x4 pieces of paper. I goofed, because I do that when I get nervous, and I didn't cut out enough on this piece, but okay, not a big deal to me. I'm just gonna now stagger these in a different way, also distressing those edges so that it will give a nice contrast. But my pieces, I believe, were like 4.5 by 3.5 and 2.5 by 3.5 on these particular samples. But again, in the directions, it says 2 3x4 pieces. So just shows you if everything doesn't go as according to plan, you just alter it. It's perfectly fine. And even so, I might even decide that I'm going to, and now we'll go vertical. Trying to think. I did use my other half of doily here. So I'm kind of just playing around, seeing what's gonna make sense with my new added pieces. And I think I will do that. There's really no rhyme or reason. Just, you wanna make sure again that you're inside your lines as well as your pieces are going to cover up these edges because it wouldn't look too pretty. But, and I like to just keep everything a little off center, a little crooked, a little whatever. I think it adds to the handmadeness of it all. Is that a word? Yes, sandpaper does work great. Thank you. Sandpaper, this is nail file, whatever works for you if you don't have a distress tool. Okay, so with these two photo mats in place, we will get back to die cutting, the laser cuts and the rub-ons later. So for now, we're gonna put it back into our album so that we can make sure we don't lose track of all of our pieces. So from here, I open up my 4-page spread. I'm gonna put everything in place just so I remember which goes where. Yeah, I almost did that upside down. Okay, so these are now in place, and I will glue them down to our base. Okay, let's start at one end or the other, doesn't really matter. Okay. I almost thought I did that upside down. All right. Moving along, my little helpers. Make sure when you are adhering this double gatefold that you keep in mind that you do have this little spine piece here. That's to allow for the depth of the pages. You can cover this later with one of, there's a sheet of journaling strips. You can kind of take two of those pieces and piece it together if you so choose. For now, we're just leaving it white. Do you sell the rub-on tool only? No, you know what, I have to tell you, had I have known that the rub-on tools would have come out so awesome, and realize obviously that if you buy 5 packs of rub-ons, you don't need 5 tools. But for now, they're in the new style packs, the vintage artistry and color sets, as well as we have a few more that will be coming out shortly. Maybe one day we'll sell the tools separate, because I have to tell you, it is quite handy. Okay, so this is our 4-page spread. Again, we're going to embellish it further in a little bit. Hopefully we get there. Hopefully you're still there. Okay, so here's our 4-page double gatefold spread. You can see the edges of the pockets on the outside. We'll flip it back in. And now we move on to our last fold. So for this, again, just wanted to give you something else to think about in terms of doing something a little different. We're going to have a solid page here, which will create a little mini layout. And on our right-hand fold, I'm actually going to create, and let me show you how this works. So we're going to take that flap, we're going to fold it in, and this was short of time and possibly short of a little paper. I left it blank. But the idea being behind this, we'll take the full page, make it into a half page that you can flip open. You can put this to work. You can put photos there. You can embellish it. But that the idea being that it would cover your photo on the background paper. So we're going to make sure that we keep in mind that this particular journaling card is going to cover our photo on the mat. I also added a little background piece of paper that I had left from something. Or the extra piece that we had cut earlier, and I don't know that I'm going to find it right this second, but I covered up the back of the journaling card just so that when you flipped it open. So let's start by doing the easy page first, the one on the left. And to do that, you need to change the fold on the page to the left side so it folds the other way. I'm sorry, I don't know if did I say something wrong? Well, I could just show you. We're going to fold this. You're going to want to make sure that you keep the edge of your paper so that you want to go right on the inside of it. I also like to use my handy dandy little tool here, and I'm kind of just gently pushing it. You obviously, if you have a scoring tool, you can use so to make sure that it's perfect, but this works for my purposes today. So the paper will fold like so, all right? But we'll get back to that sheet. We're gonna do the left right now. Did I say it right, Joanne? I'm not sure. Okay, so for our left-hand side, pretty simple. I just cut out a flower. I feel like I'm on repeat with all the cutouts of the flowers, as well as this large one. I'll just stress those edges. Can you please not chew your potato chips, Finn?
What is the color?
My little helpers.
is it?
Okay, Finn, not right now, please. Okay, so we should have back left in our photo mats. We should have a dark blue piece and a light blue piece. So for the light blue piece, there was an error. If you had printed out the directions earlier yesterday, someone did point out to me I did have one measurement change, and that's actually for the inside dark blue, or no, it's actually, is it for this one? For the right side, yes, it was for this one. So for the, no, it was on the right side. I'm sorry, I'm confusing everybody, including myself. For the left side, we are just going to take a light blue piece of paper and we're going to trim it to 3.5 by 4.5. You want to go 3.5 on the length, as we're going to use this later on our waterfall enclosure. Okay, so I have a 4 by, I shouldn't say a 4. This is 3.5 by 4.5. Did I do the right size? No, of course I didn't. But that's okay. We're going to use that for our mat on our left-hand page. This one, again, was also kind of basic because we were focusing elsewhere. We will embellish it with our pieces later. And again, the photo mat sizes really can be tailored to whatever you're using. These were just suggested guidelines of what worked with the paper. But for now, I will stick that down, and we'll do just a little bit of rub-ons here. So for this, I want to be fancy, but when I get fancy, then I'm going to mess up on air, right? So let's see if I can do it. Basically, I'm just adding a little bit off to the side to make the paper a little more exciting. I'm using this fine tip tool over here to try to kind of just follow the line of the paper. Some of the times it works. In this particular case, it more or less worked. There's a little bit that went over, but for this, it was totally fine. So you'll see there's still a little left on the sheet. So I kind of just really dug in there to follow that seam so that part would go on the paper and part wouldn't. So sometimes that will work for you. You may or may not want to take that risk, and that's totally fine. This side, I'll try it. But again, if it goes over onto my mat, not a big deal because I'm still going to have room to put my photo down. So just to show you, I'm sealing up the paper over here. Okay, and I'm just really applying that pressure to the outside piece, and I'm going to carefully peel it up. And it did work in that particular case. So you'll see here, it is a little loose, so you want to be careful that you'll have that for use later. A little went over, not a big deal, but it just makes a little extra on the paper. Again, we will further embellish this later by adding rub-ons and laser cut elements. So I'm going to put that in. Now here's where we're going to have to really work with our book, because we're going to have to make sure that everything lines up the way that we want it to. So for our right-hand page, we are going to use this particular sheet of paper. This is the light coral sheet of paper. Hopefully you can see this all. We had our dark blue piece from earlier. This is what the measurements was wrong on the original set of directions. If you downloaded it today, it has been updated. The 4x6 sheet of paper is going to be trimmed to a 4x5 inch. And the reason being, I will show you, is that our our journaling card, which if I can find, I use one. All right, so I use Think Happy Thoughts as my flip. But so the idea being is that I want to make sure this mat behind my photo, which will be also a 3x4, so it'll be the same size, that it lines up so that you don't see the photo sticking through when this is on top. So I left a nice border on that blue. So let's see, 3x4. So I had a pretend photo of a 3x4. I'm going to center it in the middle like so. And the easiest thing for me to do is to probably glue this in place so that my, I don't wind up shimmying anything later and altering the lining up of it all. Can you specifically tell us where the error is? Yes. So on the directions, where you'll see this particular spread, it says for the right side, trim the dark blue piece of 4x6 down to, and it originally said 3x5, and a photo mat of 3x4. The correct blue mat is a 4x5. So like I said, if you downloaded today, you're fine because it was updated. It's just a matter of if you had downloaded it earlier. So I do apologize, and I do thank, I'm not sure who had pointed that out to me, but I do appreciate it. Obviously, you know, you try very hard when you do directions, and you check it and you check it and you check it some more, but every now and again, you know, we just, we're human, right? Okay, so I distressed my edges. So for this, I'm gonna try to stick it as center as I possibly can because I want to be able to line this up. So you can kind of try to position, but so I'm guessing that that's about right. And then I wanna line that up. Before I stick it down too hard, I'm gonna just do a little test, and yes, okay. So with that, I'm trying to see if I had something. Here's a little, that won't be enough. Right. This was a leftover piece from when we trimmed down that spine piece at the beginning, so I can kind of use it as a little bit of a mat to cover up the back side. So because it's not a perfect size, I kind of just adhere it, pretending that I did this on purpose. And obviously trim off the excess so it doesn't show. But when we put this in place, it will go like that. We're not gonna do it right this second, as we're gonna put a border over here. But just to give you an idea of how that will work, this will flip open and then your other sheet can flip open from there. Does that make sense? Yes, the dark coral, this was just this little piece I happen to have left over from the front pages. If you could find it, great. If not, you can always use an ephemera piece or something else, or even just back it with a white piece of cardstock. You know, whatever works. Okay, so we will put in other embellishments, but just to show you, I'm gonna take this small photo reel. I'm gonna pop these little pieces out. Again, I really don't have to concern myself too much with the whole thing. I just have to pop out enough so that way when I stick it over here, which is almost all of it apparently, and I'm gonna tuck that. That's why I like having my photos and whatnot extra, not tucked down all the way so I can slide things in later. So we'll add more as we go, but we will keep cranking this out because we are good on time, or at least so I think. So before I glue this in place, I wanted to just give this edge a little something extra. I took the two smaller edges from the laser cut sheet, and you can position them however you like. But basically it is going to get half covered up, so you can trim it down, or you could just glue the whole thing, kind of whatever works. But I wanted to show off the doilies, so I kind of leave most of it to the edges, upper and top, upper and bottom. Fumbling for words here, people. Okay, so I glue that to the edge, make sure it's seamed up, and then the big moment of reveal. I want to make sure that I'm not putting my adhesive. I don't know if I did that on the camera. I don't want to obviously cover up the side that's going to overhang. So we want to be careful. But while this is in place, and again, this was folded in half so it can flip open, we're going to put it right in the spot that covers up that photo. Oh, and a kit just arrived. Oh, thank goodness. I'll tell you, the post has just been awful with lockdowns and whatnot. I know a lot of Canadian packages got held up, and I don't know, somebody said because of the lockdown. I don't know if that was the cause or not, but I can tell you there was a good number of Canadian ones I know that got stuck. So anyway, so from here, we can also just, if you want to see a little bit more exciting with the rub-ons, we will add some floral pieces. I did 2 of these 3 leaves. So for this, because I knew the whole thing wasn't going to fit, I want to make sure I cut it out so that I can cut the leaf in half. And I just had this kind of sticking out of my journaling card. This is when paper started becoming a little bit scarce. There's so many pages in it and so much to cover. As much paper as was in the paper pack, you know, we had to kind of get a little frugal with ourselves. So hopefully we did well with the rub-ons, and you can see how easy it is to add additional excitement to it. Oh, my sheets are sticking on me. Okay, so for here, I did the bottom, and you can either cut it or you can do what I did earlier by just really forcefully making that line with your tool. Okay, so I'm just gonna kind of figure out where to go with that and apply that. All right. I want to carefully lift it, making sure it all went down. And boom. Easy. Okay, so this was our next signature. We will further embellish it, and we're almost near the end in terms of getting our layers down. So I will go through this one more time after we do this last one, and then from there, we'll see how much time we're gonna have to do the different embellishments and the laser cut pieces. Okay. What do we have left? What do we have left? You should have a piece of the light blue as well as your 2 covers. And on the inside of our covers, we print all of our covers on our actual paper so that we can maximize. Why waste a cover sheet that has to get thrown in the garbage? You can obviously cut out the elements, or we print a different pattern, an exclusive pattern to our collection packs. So here you'll find 2 sheets of the same. For the back, this is where I decided to adhere the waterfall enclosure, as we had a nice gusset between space, and then we did a nice simplified layout on the left-hand side. So a lot of this, obviously this is a plainer paper, we did with a lot of the rub-ons, as well as we use the films pieces from our die cut pack. So this again was in your ephemera pack. You'll see you might have to pop out some tickets, which is okay. We'll put this on we are definitely going to be using every ticket and tag. They are my favorite. I love these little tickets and tags. They work great for just adding interest. So we will use, what did I do with that blue piece of paper I just had? Okay, you all saw it. It was here a minute ago. What did I just do? Okay, I'm officially losing it because I had it here and now I don't. Okay, so moving on with myself. For our left inside page, I'm going to position our two little photo pieces down towards the bottom. You can do 2x2 photos. I like to, when I'm not using real photos and I want to go back later, I try to use as little adhesive as possible. This way I'll be able to get that photo in without damaging anything. So I kind of just do a little one of those so that I can flip it and put in my photo later. Which side did I just, oh, there's no adhesive. Okay. Okay. So I'm going to position them like so, but before I do so, we are going to do some of the rub-ons again. And for this, I love these watercolor texty splotchy things. I think they're the first sheet I always use up because I just think they're like the best on everything. We have this sheet. And I also used some from the Neutral Elements. I used this like book plate. So I was going to position that over where my bottom piece will go. So somewhere around here. Doesn't really matter exactly where. The idea is just to layer and look like you stamped and inked and stenciled or whatever else. We'll cover that later with something else. So that's what happens when you don't peel off the pieces. Or we can even cover it just with that right there. What would you charge retail? I should have, there you go. Somebody just posted the retail price. I didn't exactly add it up. From this piece earlier where I created that nice little edge, it kind of works great for our edged paper over here. And again, the idea is that these are watercolor splotches. They don't have to be perfect. You can get a little extra. You can separate it in other parts that weren't necessarily intended. As well as the little dots. You can keep adding everywhere. Okay. So for now, I'll leave it at that. With this particular page, I will adhere these pieces down. Again, I messed up here, not a big deal. I'm just going to cover it like so. So that will be our inside. Now for the waterfall, I'm really still perplexed at where in the world that blue sheet of paper I just had went. One more quick look while you guys catch up. Anybody have any questions? Check inside completed album you just showed. Oh yeah, definitely not the only one, but it's kind of embarrassing when you're on a live and you say, oh, here's a sheet of paper, and then you literally don't know what happened to it. But hopefully you guys understand these things just do happen. So I'm gonna have to figure out something. This is the impromptu-ness of it all. Huh. It's just baffling. Like, where? Well, I can show you. Oh, there it is. See, it was underneath my other book. Hallelujah. Found it. We are good to go. Okay. So for this waterfall enclosure, before I adhere it to the back, I wanted to cover up the front and the bottom, and this way it blends with whatever papers I'm using. I don't know if there's a better method. There probably is, but for me, I like to pull these off so that I can just put the paper down and then I glue the center. You really could do a brad through it to make sure it's secured, but you will have to re-glue it down, and you do need to be a little bit careful pulling these off. We do sell the waterfall enclosure separately. It comes in this size, which is a 6x8, as well as there's a pack with the 4x6 finish size, and it's available in white and craft, which that will be coming in February. I shouldn't even say that's not even available yet, but it's coming. So I pulled off my little pieces. And it's okay if it pulled the paper a little bit. It's not really a big deal because I'm going to be covering it with paper. Now, I'm sure there's a better way to do this than what I did. And if you guys know, feel free. The waterfall enclosure comes with a score mark on it. And obviously, once you start putting other layers of photos or other papers in here, it's going to build up in size. So we needed to have a little bit of give for it. And this particular gap works out perfectly in the album, and that's why we allowed the space between the pages. So I'm kind of just like popping those out so that when I seal it and it gets adhered, you'll see that it has like a boxed effect. So in order to make the paper work, we do have to score it, and this is not my forte per se, but I'm gonna make it try to work. So the best I came up with, there's probably professional album makers out there who could do this way better than I can, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this little blue piece, kind of just make sure that it lines up widthwise and to the top flap. So now you'll see I just can easily trim the corner, as well as I'm gonna just poke the inside hole here so this way I know where I'm adhering back my little piece. But I need to allow for the bend of the paper. So I'm going to see if it will score this direction, and I should have just used a ruler that I didn't. Does that bend? Does it not go through? No. So okay, so I'm gonna just follow that, wrap it around. And as long as I get to the back, there's a little bit of space. I mean, it's not a lot that's gonna go around your back because this was from our piece earlier. We can then, hey, what am I doing? Did I miss I did, no, I'm good. Oh, I did miss a bend, but that's okay, we'll make it, yeah. Okay, so now it goes and it gets scored around. We can then seal up the back so that it will be covered. So this piece does not go all the way around the back, but when it's adhered to the inside cover, who would ever know? So this is our top flap. And for the bottom, we follow the same concept. We're just gonna use the patterned paper from before. And for this, I'm just going to adhere up my sides. Make sure that the width is properly placed, as well as your top edge. Okay, and you can also, if you don't, like here it's somehow a little bit off. What you can also do is if you don't like how you cut your corners or whatever, you can always distress those edges to blend it all in. I like doing that. I'm always a fan of making everything look like I meant to do this. And again, with the bottom pieces, we will just score along. And did I again? Yep, there's the other one. So this is just to bend the paper so it's gonna go in place. And then I'll put my adhesive. And voila. Oh. Okay, so these are the general placements of where we're gonna put back our little things. I like the top on the string on the top part, but that's just me. I put a little bit of glue because I don't want to do too much. If I put too much, it's not going to, it's going to seal the whole thing, and then you're not going to have anything to wrap the string around. And why is my glue not coming out? Hold on 1 second. Oh, there we go. I knew that was going to happen. Okay. Well, I have glue all over my hand. Okay. Put a little bit of glue. I'm going to stick it here. Oop. And then we'll do the same to the bottom piece. And we'll kind of stick this on the side for a moment just to dry before we bother putting it back into the album cover. So for now, let me stick this back sheet on. Oh, we still have to go to the cover. Okay. All right, I'm gonna do a quick little flip through of all the pages so that you can see where we're at so far. I hope that that helps. Oh, thank you, Jean. I always like to hear that. You always get a little nervous. So we're gonna go back to the covers, but our inside pages. So this is where they stand. We have the inside front cover. We flip to the right and we have 2 more layouts on the inside. We flip back. We have 2 straight pages. I don't know, whatever you want to call it, flat pages. One with the pocket and one with the layout. We flip. Our double gatefold goes open. We have the 2 pockets, one on the left, one on the right, with the 2 layouts in the middle. Then we flip. We have our single page here, and then our double flip floppy, whatever you want to call this page, which will show a photo underneath the journaling card. And then our inside. Once we know these are adhered, once we know that these are good to go, we will glue the whole back of this to the inside cover, and you're gonna line it up with where your pages are on the height and a little bit on the inside so that it'll line up perfect. So now with all that done, we have to go obviously back to our covers. We may not get to all the layers with the die cuts and whatnot, but you can certainly look at the photos and easily apply those. The idea is to make sure that we get all of the techniques in. So for our front cover and spine, the spine and the back cover, quite easy. We can actually just stick those down in place. We had cut, this was the 2 3/4 inch dark coral piece for the spine. You just want to make sure that you're even top and bottom. Right. Okay, so the spine's in place. I then go to my back cover, making sure I put this the right way. I left the back cover plain as can be. This way, if it's lying down or stored in a manner that it won't damage anything. So you want to make sure that your spine, top and bottom, is at the same height. Oh, could I be a little off here? Okay. There we go. Okay, so that's my back cover, my spine, and now we have the front. So for the front, we're going to embellish this. Now to do so, we should have 2 die cut pieces left from our ephemera. And we're gonna distress them a little bit, layer it with pieces, rub-ons, and obviously you can tweak this, you can make it a photo. This is just what I came up with. I thought live in the moment. Well, isn't that appropriate for these days? So I like to tatter the edges up a bit. You can even kind of crumble it, let it rip, it's okay. You can always add glue if you rip in a place you don't want it to be ripped, or you can just leave it as is. And for here, we'll just ink up the edges. So these die cut pieces just make it easy. They all work together. They're already cut in a way you didn't have to tear anything and wonder, did I tear it right? Did I tear it wrong? We'll put some adhesive in the middle. This I actually, see that? And when you do this, you can just pull it right off because we're going to keep layering. So I stick that down first. I'm going to off-center that a bit. Okay. Then we go back. There is extra journaling cards. If you like Think Happy Thoughts, do Think Happy Thoughts. If you want a plain one and make your own title with the rub-ons, you can certainly do so. For right now, I'm just going to follow the example. Distress these edges a little bit. Video just cut out. Did the video cut out? No, we're still going. Okay, good. I hope we're not. Did you put anything on the scored piece at the bottom? I will go back to the waterfall in a moment after we do the cover. Okay, for here, I did some doilies that we can stick either underneath or you can trim. Actually, let's stick this on this. Okay, so here are my pieces. Here's it's centered, I think. Okay, so our rub-ons. I love these pieces. I love them. Have I said that enough for you guys? I'm going to layer this so it kind of falls over top and bottom of several pieces. And I don't know if any of you even spotted these little beads, but they are so cute for just adding a little speck here and there. And I'll just show you that well, we'll do it after we do our pieces, but they're just cute. They go like everywhere and just make little added things. Okay, for our leaf, I think that's what I did. Okay, so this particular piece, again, I'm gonna cut it out because here's what I did. I didn't want to waste any of it, and I wanted to blend it so that not only that I just have the one piece. So I knew I was gonna cover up this particular leaf. So I wanna trim this out as I'm gonna pretend that a leaf is falling over here. And then this, I'm gonna kind of just tuck in a smidge to the journaling card so it looks like it's coming out of it, as well as you can see it's going over all of the pieces. So it really looks like you did this beautiful watercolor leaf, even though we all know in this class that you just used the rub-on. Isn't that gorgeous? I just love it, love it. Isn't that beautiful? And then we'll apply the little leaf down here for the added pop of color on the bottom to balance it out. Hopefully replay will have the video on. Okay, so to further make this a little bit more fancy, we're gonna take some of our die cut pieces. We had a lot of pieces are left, and you will use them. If you're looking to save a few dollars off the cost of a kit, these are not necessary. These are our pixie petals. I like adding flowers because, well, usually I add flowers on everything, but you have to add a low profile flower for these mini albums. So they do work perfectly. They're not expensive. They retail for $3 for the pack, but again, that could shave a little bit. But your ephemera pack has lots of tickets and tags left, as well as some labels. And we are gonna make them all work for us. We also have a lot of the laser cut elements. You won't use quite all of them, but we will use a bit. I'm just gonna move my mat, which these things all shimmied under. So for the cover, I went with just some random pieces, and I'm really just going to layer them. The leaves that are die cut or laser cut are just, I don't know. I love the detail. I always did. Our laser cuts, I think, are an amazing addition to save time in classes as well, because you don't have to spend time fussy cutting. And that, obviously, when you see all these other layers, it's a great deal when you can save time anywhere, truth be told. But so my example, I kind of just stick in little pieces here and there. Where's this one? You know, I just layer away. So I will glue those in place. For these, I usually use a wet glue. I also don't adhere every bit of it. I kind of just tack down a little here and there, because I sometimes will use pop dots, especially on cover. I also use my fingers just to give it like a little natural bend, especially with the leaves, just to make it look more authentic. You know, have them come out a little here, a little there. And we're gonna do this. Oop. And I like the wet glue on the embellishments because I think it gives us a little bit of extra time to play and make sure that our placement is where we want it to be without it automatically sticking down. I try not to use too much wet glue just because I hate when it warps the paper, but it should be pretty easy here. So we add some pieces. And I add in some little flowers, and I love to tuck them here, tuck them there. Okay, and voila, that is our cover. which, because I probably should have waited to put these on until after I had it down on the album, it's going to be a little hard for me to get the, well, I don't want to mess up my elements. So I'm going to actually just kind of, for now, put my adhesive here on the back of the cover, keeping my spine position in place in terms of the height. And trying to center it, but my eyes don't always see straight. Okay, and now I put it in place. Now, the beautiful thing is, if now I do know, okay, I'm done here. This is sticking up a little in a way I don't want it to. Okay, so just tack a bit of glue, and then you'll have it in place. So that is your cover, and with the exception of now going back to here, we could be in a good place to end. I will show you the interior pages, and I will show you some added little cool things. But with your, oh, this tape is not working too well, is it? With the added elements and rub-ons, you can do as much or as little as you like, to your liking. It's really at everyone's leisure. Okay, so I am gonna make sure my string doesn't get in the way. And I probably should have added a little bit of wet glue just to make sure, because this will be used and pulled and whatnot. But I want to adhere that in place. Okay, so tidbits of information. So this was our waterfall. I just simply did the plain blue and the pattern. I'm not going to get into it today, but on these gaps between the waterfall pages, you can take the journaling strips, and if you cut them, you can kind of use it as a nice little segue there. It's upside down, but you get the idea. So you can cut those strips and they work perfectly as a little separation there. Or you can also stick patterns of paper on the bottom as well. So that's the waterfall in place. Oop, I didn't let that dry, but we'll be careful. Oh, and I'll have to add more glue later. Okay, so from here, what do? We have all these pieces. I don't know if anybody got to punching them out, not punching them out, but we'll just show you some of the highlights. And again, you do as you please. For here, you know, you can stick in little butterflies, kind of make things pop a little bit. So as I mentioned here, I wanted to kind of take advantage of overcutting. So I'm gonna pop a little butterfly. I take all my tickets and tags and I create little clusters. And these are just little points of interest, and it doesn't really matter how you do it. I like to try to give a little variation in terms of the colors and make things pop. You know, distress, curl, all that good stuff. And I'm constantly sticking in here, sticking in there, making sure I stick that in a little further. These are the examples of what I did are in the directions. Like I said, do as you please to the level you're comfortable with. Sometimes I wonder if I go a little too overboard as I get a little too excited, especially with those rub-ons. The rub-ons make me very happy. So I just keep adding and adding and adding. And then I go, oh, did I do too much? So that is up to you. But again, just showing you how you can create these little clusters. Oh, I have another clock here. Cover up that little paper thing, little. There you go, boom, right? So beautiful page. Oh, I forgot, my favorite are these little tabs. I love the tabs. And when you see with the rub-ons, how cute. Now this, should have had my, is this the right size? No, this isn't. So let me, well, it's the exact same size. I'm just gonna trim that a smidge. And that's why sliding everything works great. So pretending that photo's in place, then the words, we didn't get to the words. You didn't hear about the words on the rub-ons. These, I'd say probably, it's hard to cut them out because they're so detailed and there's so many. So you kind of have to be a little cautious. So for example, I use Dream Big. So at least on this, I can kind of hold the plastic so my bottom ones that are going to be lying on the paper really aren't too affected. And then I'm carefully with my pointed edge going to just do that little Dream Big right there. How perfect is that for a title? I mean, aren't they cute? So you can continue to add rub-ons or not. I will just do these first few pages so you can see the flow that I typically try to do. And again, it really just all stems from tucking in these pieces as I go. If for some reason, let's say here, okay, the adhesive's blocking me and I want it to go down a little further, really not a big deal. Just trim a piece because it's going to be tucked under anyway. So, and then you can even actually maximize and use both halves. So I'm playing as I go. I like where it's at. I want to add another one. Just to add the colors and break it up. And then what I'm going to do is, where's my glue? As I see it in place, I just tack down a little bit of glue so I don't have to move it all around a little. I can curl up those edges, make them look a little more natural, a little more worn with my fingertips while I'm holding it in place, and it just gives it that little tattered edge. Again, we can go back and put in some leaf pieces. I think for this, I'm just gonna pop out one of my ones from the sheet. Again, I just kind of carefully or delicately yank it out. And then I can position it however is gonna work on the page. Tack a little adhesive. Have I lost you guys yet? Or are you loving it? I love all the details. I love all the layers. I couldn't be happier with these collections and how they came out. I hope you are too. This was the bottom I cut from this top. I can use it over here somewhere if I want, you know, to kind of even the layers out. Keep missing my glue. Make it look like everything is meant to stick out and be tucked under. Do I have a green? The green label comes from the laser cuts. All of these pieces are either coming from the blue ephemera pack or your laser cut sheets. So you can see how easy it is just to keep adding and adding and adding to whatever makes sense and to what you like. But there's an example as well. When you look at the photos, if you want to add more of those rub-ons, like I said, we've got examples just in every page. You know, up here, a little missing something. Okay, well, let's just add in a butterfly. Can't go wrong, can you? Okay, and then that's like a nice worn, tattered butterfly. Over here, also thought I was missing a little something. So I'm gonna go in and use some of those watercolor splotches just to show you how amazing the watercolor splotches are that Katie did. You can see they're like translucent. So basically when you layer it over your different colors, you're gonna see that it looks authentic. It looks like you actually had a watercolor splotch added to your paper. And you can just go in and put these anywhere, everywhere, dot, dot there, dot, dot here, there a dot, everywhere a dot. My kids would be embarrassed if they heard me right now. Okay, on the inside pages. So from here, again, we didn't really do too much, or at least on the examples I didn't. I added a little bit of floral, trying not to cover where my photo is. I only add a little bit of the glue on the ends so that I can lift it up. What are we gonna do here? I'm gonna kind of add it so it looks natural, like it's coming out without totally going over everything. I can pick up the edges. I can do that later. I'm also going to take the two pink file tabs from the laser cut sheet. We're gonna put them in place here. And these are just a great way of adding a little bit of detail. How am I on time? I'm supposed to be ending and wrapping up. I won't take too much time. We'll just show you the finished pages from here. But I think you get the idea of just how easy it is to add the rub-ons, add the little pieces here and there, and it makes a big difference. So I hope that you guys enjoyed this. I know we had to move quickly, and now of course I'm trying to find the words that I used on my example, and I can't, but anyway, we'll just make do. I broke up the think happy, be happy, or think happy, be happy. So we'll add that. And I'm covering up the extra pieces. Oh, that's what I did. I just broke it up into two. Think happy, be happy. So kind of there you have it in terms of the layers. I will just show you the actual finished one here. The cute little banner that comes from the laser cut sheet. The idea behind that, I just tacked a little glue on the staple areas so this way I could put a photo underneath there and it's not going to prohibit me from doing anything. Again, we added a few little clusters, the tab. That was our first one. The second, we added the file tab here with the beautiful rub-ons, layers, words, tags. Those were your two solid pages, and then our gatefolds. Here, this clear, beautiful skies, I love it. That's one of the rub-ons up top, natural beauty. You can add in the laser cut sheets, you know, as extra pocket pieces. And then to open, together, hugs and kisses, the butterfly. Here we did a title over here, the cute little beads, as I mentioned, or you can even do stitching over the photos. The rub-ons, you really can keep going on and on and on. I can't get enough. This particular piece was somewhere on one of my sheets. Okay. So this particular piece was 2 stems. I didn't want to waste anything, so I did trim it out and I just cut it in half there so I could stick a little piece here on the bottom and a little piece here on the top. Oh, Joanne, thank you. I'm glad that you enjoyed it. And thank you so much for waking up so early. I know it has to be rough. Hopefully you had a lot of coffee today. For our flip-flop page, again, the banner, I allowed the, oh, it actually broke, but I can always tack a little extra adhesive here to fix it once I have that photo in place. As well as die cuts, rub-ons, the watercolor splotches. You do have a few extra bits and bobbles of pieces. You can obviously cover this. And there you have it. That's pretty much our album. Oh, I did the rub-ons up here. Happy thoughts. I hope that you guys enjoyed this. I know it was a lot to take in, and thank you for bearing with me. Hopefully you will find it valuable and a great way to show your customers some different products. I do want to also mention to you 2 things. One is we just started a new retailers group on Facebook. So if you look up 49 and Market Retailer Group, we'll obviously approve you. I think you just have to put in your store and where you're located. It will be for retailers only. We plan on using that page to give you directions for classes, to give you new product updates. We thought it was kind of the best place to keep touch with people. There is a set of directions, which you have not yet seen, to 2 other pages. Those are scrapbook layout pages. Notions carries all the products that are in there. Trying to think of what else. There is a bonus project, and I will just really quickly show that to you. The bonus project, which is in the links above, this followed, and it lets the May Notions Commotion. We did a 4-page layout from a kit, and it was a huge hit, and I was really happy to see all the comments that everybody did. So we wanted to almost give you the same thing. So basically, here is 4 pages. There are directions as well as the products needed to complete it. It uses similar techniques to what we did today. It has the rub-ons, which again, just looking at the detail that the rub-ons add to any project, as well as it did do a little bit of the fussy cutting. So you can see here, like the butterflies. So at least you have a basis kind of for what that is. So there are directions for these as well available. all we ask, this is just me, that doesn't matter, but if you take any of the class kits from our retailers page, you can use them for your classes, your kits, whatever it is that you need. We just ask that you credit the designer who's listed if there is one there. And any questions for me? I don't know. I know you guys probably need a lunch break, probably have to go to the bathroom, and you are going to be excited to come back on at 1 o'clock for Simon Hurley from Ranger, I'm sure. Anything you guys want to see again before I sign off, or is that it? Thank you, and thank you, Notions, for having us. It was an absolute pleasure. I hope everybody enjoyed. The albums won't be available until end of February, so if you're planning, I know that is the one downside, which is also why we decided to give you extra layout directions, so that way you could take advantage sooner. So that's it for me. The Facebook group, if you just look up 49 and Market Retailer Group, you should be able to find it. I think it just simply asks you, what store you're from and where, just so we can verify that information, because we do want to make sure that it is strictly retailers only. We don't want access to the general public, because we want to be able to give you information that we want you to be able to share, not us share it with people. So that's it. Thank you. Be well, be safe, and we're around if you have any questions. Thank you.